Hi, this is David Peritz, and I am very excited to tell you about the new class I'm going to be offering at Fromm this spring of 2026. And let me get my slides open so I can share some details with you. The course will be, as my courses tend to be, on Monday mornings from 10 to 11:50-ish, and it will focus on the ethics and politics of new technology. And I will say, I think it's obvious that this is a highly relevant topic in so many different ways in contemporary politics, contemporary ethics, contemporary society. And at the same time, that is a topic that allows us to discuss a whole range of important issues that are not just technological, but that are deeply humane, philosophical, political, and ethical. And so I really am brimming with excitement to teach this class. Let me tell you just a little bit about it so you can decide if you're interested in it. I'm going to start by saying that there are extremist views out there. I have on the board someone who thinks, right, that AI will solve all of our problems, and someone else who believes that if someone builds, right, superhuman AI, it will kill everyone. Sorry. I have also someone who believes that social media is going to create a whole new realm of human sociability, and somebody else who believes that social media has become primarily a source of disinformation. And I'll start out by saying I think neither of those views is wholly correct, that the interesting territory usually lies between the extremes. And I do believe we are in a period, an era of human history where at least one of the fundamental, if not the most fundamental attribute of it, is that it's an era of technological acceleration. And so, oh, I'm sorry, my slides advanced. I have on the board Hartmut Rossa's Alienation and Acceleration, one of the most influential contemporary social theorists, talking about this as the fundamental attribute of our age. But I also believe that it's possible for us to, through both regulation and ethics, maybe decelerate the pace of technological change, at least somewhat. And that the real question here about human agency over technology concerns precisely, on the one hand, using political regulation to slow the pace of technological change, but also to manage where technology is going to take us, and in particular, to limit some of the most dangerous possibilities that do lurk within the technological horizons of the near future. But I also believe, and so I want to be clear about this, that policy alone is insufficient. It's a blunt instrument. It is going to have a very hard time keeping pace with the rate of technological change and acceleration, that it is equally important that we develop the individual and collective capacity to control our use of technology, and in so doing, control technology. And so I go back to a book I've discussed with some of you before, Brian Christian's The Alignment Problem, which is about whether or not AI will align with human values, misalign with human values. And I do believe that it's, in a sense, up to us politically and ethically to do our best to influence that. In mentioning that some of you have studied Brian Christian with me before, I will just note I taught a course a year ago on the life of the mind in the age of intelligent machines. This course will have little to no overlap with that course. It may build on some of the things I've learned in that course. I will not assume any familiarity with that course, but it's also the case that if you are worried that this might be a retread of that course, I promise it won't be. So I as is the case with these kinds of courses I teach, I've laid out some of the books I'm reading to share with you. We will go into more detail on this when we get into the class, but I'll just say it very quickly. Some of these books are by technologists. Some of these books are by philosophers. Some of these books are by political scientists. Some of these books are by journalists or public intellectuals or historians or lawyers. And one of the things I really like about this kind of class is it lets me dive deep into a literature that is both rich and rapidly evolving, as is the subject matter. And I'm very much looking forward to the opportunity to discuss with you what I'm learning from the deep dive into the contemporary technology and ethics literature. So, having said that, and I promise I won't go through all of this in the preview, but this is to give you a sense of where we'll begin this course. I'm going to suggest different levels of concern. And the idea that there are narrow ethical concerns, right? How should we use this technology, for instance, if porn is made by AI? Does that make it more or less objectionable than porn using real human beings? That's right, that what we do with this technology right now, ethical problem. The second broader ethical problem is how is this technology changing us, right? And here I'm going to think, and this will be my primary focus in this class, about two particular kinds of technology: social media and artificial intelligence. And more and more and more people, on the one hand, are mediating their social relations through social media, and on the other hand, are using artificial intelligence both as helpmates to solve intellectual problems, but also as companions. What does that do to us? And should we perhaps be concerned about some of the ways in which it changes us? The deepest level of concern here is, I think, do we have ethical obligations to AI in addition to ethical obligations to ourselves? And will superintelligent machines consider themselves to have ethical obligations to us? Those are questions that I do kind of hear that it sounds almost like science fiction, but they're real, they're deep, they're important questions. And I think it challenges us both philosophically and technologically to think through the answers to them. When we shift from ethics to politics, again, I'll start with the narrowest problems and move out to the broadest problems. So, narrow problems about technology regulation have to do with, for instance, how do we police AI systems? Should they do things that are biased? How can we detect that and do our best to avoid relying on them or having them reproduce our biases? The broader political implications, and here I'm going to focus primarily on artificial intelligence, have to do with what the availability of artificial intelligence to our government or state might do to transform the power, the capacity, the organization of our state. Some of you may be aware, as I'm recording this just in the last week, there was a dispute between Anthropic and the Department of Defense, in which the Department of Defense wanted to revise its contract, and Anthropic said, no, we're not willing to let our technology be used for the surveillance of American citizens or for autonomous weaponry. I think we have to get our heads around the idea that these possibilities are coming quickly, and it's going to change the way in which we interact with our government and the kinds of power that our government has over us. The possibility of digital authoritarianism or autocracy is real. It is growing. China kind of presents the model, but we may not be that far away from it ourselves. And then, right, the most fundamental question, politically speaking, is how does AI change or upset the balance and dynamics of social power? Do the people who own AI become disproportionately powerful in our democracy to the point where it really no longer functions as a democracy? Does AI itself become so powerful? And then, by the way, how does a public sphere structured by social media change the character of our democracy? And how do we want to respond to these emerging realities? So very quickly, the course will divide into three main units. The first, an introduction to this age we live in, the age of accelerated technological change. And so looking at the intelligence revolution, looking at the evolution of digital communication technology, the internet, and then social media, ubiquitous portable computing, and then finally how the velocity of technological change challenges the capacity of human culture, ethics, and politics to adapt, right? So that's the introduction. Second unit is on the ethics of new technology, and we'll look a little bit at the history of ethics and the way in which the history of ethics has been driven by technological evolution, and then look at the idea of a new ethics for a new age and how we might want to change our ethics in order to fit our new technology, but also change our technology use to accord with our values. The third and final unit of the course, well, it's equal to the first unit in length, is the politics of new technology. And here I break it up into the narrow problems of technology regulation, right? What should we be doing here and now from the government's point of view just to regulate the use and adaptation of this technology? But then also, right, the big question looming soon. How many jobs will be lost to this new technology? And will it generate more jobs than it eliminates? And if not, what should we do about it? And that is an economic question, right? What do we do with people who are losing jobs and don't have immediate jobs that they can transition into? But it's also a deeper question. If we are no longer a society in which work is the main form of social inclusion, cooperation, belonging, how do we change our sense of social contribution? Then finally, how new technologies transform state capacities, and what kinds of rights and protections do we and our technology need as a result of the way in which our political relations, both to each other and to the technology, will be transformed. As I say, this is a Monday morning class, spring of 2026. I hope you will consider it. I look forward to seeing, I hope, some of you in the middle of April for what I think will be really fun, really fascinating, really challenging discussion. Thanks for your time. See some of you next month. Bye-bye.